coming.
Welcome to the Killer Author Club. 3 best-selling authors talking about killer, of the fictional kind, with the best thriller and suspense authors in the business. Killer conversations, killer cocktails, and killer guests, with your hosts, Kimberly Bell, Heather Gudenkauf, and Kara Ruda. This is the Killer Author Club.
Yay! Hello and welcome everybody to the Killer Author Club, your favorite haunt for all things murder, mystery, and mayhem. We are so excited to have killer extraordinaire Deborah Goodrich Royce here in the Killer Author Club hot seat to tell us all about her sizzling new thriller, Best Boy. Will she survive? Will we? We have tons of questions and heaps of killer fun planned, so buckle up and get ready to kill the lights. I'm Killer Heather Gudenkauf.
Killer Deborah.
And I'm Killer Kara Ruda.
And I'm Killer Kimberly Bell. Did we fool you? April Fool. Of course we know who we are. We thought we would slide that in there.
Aren't we clever? We are, by golly. Okay, before we dive into Deborah's fabulous book, a couple of quick PSAs. Tonight's show will be available this Friday as a podcast with bonus content just for listeners. Find the links at killerauthorclub.com. And while you're there, sign up for our newsletter. It might be going out tomorrow, so you're the first to hear all about our killer breaking news. Also, don't miss our first killer takeover for April. Emily Carpenter will be hanging out with you in the Killer Author Club Facebook group this Thursday, answering all your burning questions about her new Gothic thriller, A Spell for Saints and Sinners. And yes, there will be giveaways. And now, Kimberly, would you please introduce our killer guest?
I would love to. Deborah Goodrich Royce's Reef Road, a national bestseller and Indie Next Pick, was named one of the best books of the year by Kirkus Reviews. Ruby Falls won the Zibby Award for Best Plot Twist. That was a really good one. And Finding Mrs. Ford was hailed by Forbes and Good Morning America. At the Ocean House Author Series, Deborah interviews writers ranging from Katie Couric to Sarah Ferguson, Duchess of York, with fellow authors Luann Rice and Amy, how do I say her last name? Scheibe. She leads the Deer Mountain Writers Retreat. She writes a book column for Hey Rhody and Providence Monthly magazines and began her career as an actress on All My Children and story editor at Miramax Films. So, Deborah, welcome to the Killer Author Club.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. You guys are famous.
We are so excited to have you here and to talk about your fabulous book, Best Boy. Would you kind of give us a little hint about what the book is about?
Yeah. So 3 years ago, I really, truly, personally got an email from a guy who said, "Hey, remember me? I was your best boy on Survival Game," which sounds like a very provocative sentence. I assure you it is not. A best boy is someone in the electrical department on a movie, and Survival Game was a film I did. I did not remember this man. He then went on, he really doubled down. He said, "Do you remember that Thanksgiving dinner we had together? You were the only actress on the set that nobody visited." So now at this point, I'm thinking, well, that's kind of a depressing thing to remember about me when I don't remember this about myself. But he wasn't finished. He finally said, "Do you remember when we ran into each other at the Cannes Film Festival? You were holding a baby, and I wondered if the child was mine." So now I'm totally in shock because I have no memory of this person. In real life, he finally finished it by saying, "But of course, that wouldn't have been possible." So huge relief. But I got to thinking about memory and this idea that we can have parallel universes going on and not remember the same thing. And in the case of developing it into a book, I wanted to explore, what if he was telling the truth? What does it say about our heroine? But what if he was lying? What does he want?
I love that. That is amazing. And it was a fantastic story. So readers, get chatty. Drop your questions for our killer guest in the comments. But first, Heather, what are we drinking?
Oh, yes. the important stuff here. So we're drinking the Virgin Skinny Margarita. Deborah, please tell us why you've chosen this as your drink tonight.
Well, I will tell you. So my protagonist, Vivica, has a memory problem because in part of her life, when we know her, she's had a drinking problem. So we do meet her on the set of a movie where she is drinking full strength skinny margaritas, and way too many of them. And she gets into quite a situation. And in the course of the book, she does become sober. So I picked this drink, one, because we've seen her drinking it, and two, because I wanted to have a non-alcoholic beverage. Although I have a glass of wine with me.
That's totally.
Yes. Well, cheers to an amazing book, and congratulations. And we're so happy to have you here.
Thank you.
Yay. Okay, you guys, we created the Killer Author Club so readers could get up close and personal with their favorite thriller writers. Our upcoming lineup is stacked with amazing killers. We have Gillian McAllister, Sally Hepworth, Allison Wynne Scotch, Lauren Oliver, and so many more. For dates, times, past episodes, and our Killer 2026 lineup, surf to killerauthorclub.com. But tonight, it's all about Best Boy. Here's what some of Deborah's early reviewers have to say about the book. Kirkus Reviews says, absolutely compelling. Killer Lisa Unger says, this is a breathless and engrossing must-read about the lies we tell each other and ourselves. And New York Times bestselling author Allison Pataki said, at times dark, at times laugh out loud funny, this is a dishy and deeply textured read that will have you racing through the pages to figure out what happened and what happens next. So Deborah, we all know you are a talented and highly professional killer. So now we need to know your answer to the killer question, why do you kill?
Why do I kill? Well, I think because it poses, in many ways, the big questions, right? In that kind of extreme situation, when someone has been killed or some other equally traumatic event happens, you can then crack everything open and look at who people really are. I think that would be my answer.
I love that answer. That's a really good answer. It was also not as scary as I was hoping for. We are, of course, the Killer Author Club, Deborah. So that was more psychological, but we'll let you go with that because it was very well done. So
okay.
Yeah.
Love it.
Okay. So you kind of explained what the Best Boy is as far as how it got started in your head. And it's also a triple entendre. Could you kind of explain the different layers from the film crew role to Vivica's son, Theo, and the other undertones of the term in the book?
Yeah, I do like layers. I think we all do. I think we, not only the layers of the plot and the mystery, but layers of meaning. And in this case, the book is, of course, about really solving who is after this woman and what, if anything, does he want. But also, this term Best Boy, it's one, my husband, and I have a dog here with me, when I told him the title, he's like, sounds like a dog. So it does kind of sound like a dog. You can hear that title and think of it on one level. It's kind of innocuous. On the other hand, it can be a somewhat disparaging term to call a man a boy. And our character, Vivica, who is Ingrid, is a girl. She's assaulted as a girl, and she has no memory of what happened. And as we're kind of peeling that onion to figure out who actually attacked her, she's 16 when it happens, and it happens at the end of a party. So it's probably at the hands of a boy. And who is that boy? So that's another level. And then the third level is, for much of her life when we know her, she's a mother of a 10-year-old boy called Theo. And he is really the best of her, with no irony in the term at all.
Yeah. So Vivica, Ingrid, changes her name, her face, her voice to escape her trauma and kind of reinvents herself. So, is that why you said it in the late 90s? Because how could somebody do that now, right? It seems almost impossible.
It is almost impossible. And yes, and there's a long time period. It goes from 1998 to 2018. So we see it at different stages. She doesn't, and this is not a big secret, she does not really set out to do that. After this horrible night when she is attacked, her nose has been badly broken. She's got to have quite a bit of plastic surgery, and her vocal cords are damaged. And the aftermath of that attack is so troubling. It's not just the attack, which she can't remember, but the aftermath of really what happens in the town, what happens among people, what happens to her and the questioning by the police. Sort of leaving town really becomes her only option in her mind. And because she looks so different, she goes to Hollywood and takes a stage name. It seems, when we think about it, if one were to plan to do that, it's a very dramatic thing to do. But in a way, she almost happens upon it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I was curious. So Vivica suffers from these debilitating migraines, and I have family members who that are affected by that as well. Where did you pull that certain ailment from? And is it something personal? But it was so realistic, and you could just feel the pain that she was going through during those episodes.
Yeah, very personal. I went through really, I'm going to say 40 years of, I think, really primarily menstrual migraines, but menstrual migraines can really happen at any time of the cycle. It was such a feature of my life and thinking about it. And it shapes everything. So yeah, I did pick that intentionally. It was very personal. I've had ocular migraines. They're the most bizarre thing, and I describe them exactly as they are.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I can feel like I was walking in Vivica's shoes as she was experiencing these, and really feel for her on top of everything else that she's going through.
Poor girl, because that's a lot. Those things are terrible.
Yeah.
You often use a technique of hyper focusing on ordinary sensory details. I love this. Like trees or a cup of coffee right before a shock occurs. How does this help you build the simmering tension? And are you doing this on purpose? Or is this just how you write? Or are you trying to do this? And it's actually like a Hitchcockian device.
Mm-hmm. Totally. Yeah. It's totally Hitchcock. I think I'm very influenced by film. I think that was a technique he used. You can have someone walking along and like right now, I've got a puppy who keeps bringing me a ball. If I look like I'm fidgeting, it's because I'm trying to kick the ball away. But that would be the kind of thing in a book. If you had a woman sitting in a chair and she's bothered by the dog and she keeps focusing on the dog, it both pulls the reader's attention to what is happening, but I think it also makes the reader attentive that something else might come along. It doesn't come as a total shock out of nowhere because it is a thing that we do. So yeah, I really like that. And I do think focusing here, it makes it all so much more visual.
Yeah, it really works. I guess I've never even thought about, I think about, when I'm doing a story like this, like maybe it plays out in my head like that, but like the hyper focusing, that's such a great technique.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And speaking of Hitchcock and film, so you were an actress for like 10 years, right? You have a 10-year career. Mm-hmm. And is that why you chose Hollywood as like the perfect place for Vivica to reinvent herself?
Totally. Yes. And I think I also just learned so much in Hollywood, and I do like writing it. So you said April Fool's Day. One of my kind of cult classic films that I did was a film called April Fool's Day with Fred Walton. And he did a film called When a Stranger Calls, which is one of the scariest films of all time, with Carol Kane. Do you remember When a Stranger Calls? Girls sitting
scary. Yeah.
And she keeps getting prank phone calls, prank phone calls, prank phone calls. And I'll give you the spoiler. And finally, the police trace the call. It's coming from upstairs.
Ah,
Yeah.
the call is coming from in the house.
Yeah. So that's Fred Walton. So when we did April Fool's Day, it was a completely tongue-in-cheek horror film, completely with the biggest twist. It was like an Agatha Christie, and then there were none. All these young people on an island, everybody gets killed, and then a huge twist, which then later was copied with the franchise Scream. So why do I set things in Hollywood? I guess I think in that hyper attenuated, hyper focused way, Hollywood, I think, is that for our culture, or has been historically. That may be changing now that we have reality television and all ways of communicating through social media. But I think historically, my dog is going crazy. It sort of becomes this, I'm going to say hyper-focused way of looking at a situation through the prism of that setting. I'm going to get this ball.
You know what, Deborah? We love dogs here.
Yes.
And it isn't a
We
show
have multiple people asking to see your puppy.
Yeah.
Here he comes.
Hello. Look
This
at
is
his
Killer
hair.
Dick.
He's like little Einstein.
Yes, he's
So
very rambunctious. He's got quite a hairdo. I washed his hair last week. He wants this ball.
Oh, so cute.
So if any of you remember puppydom, I am in it.
Yes.
Speaking of that,
Anybody who watches our show has come to expect a dog barking or two. It's just part of our show. So you fit right in. You fit right in.
At a certain point, my computer may go flopping on the side. I don't know.
We like it. We like it. It's all part of the show.
Yeah.
We do. We do.
That's the way of a live
I
show.
always have a dog or a cat in my books.
Mm-hmm.
So far, always.
You do or you don't?
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always have. It's of the 4 books I've published, 3 dogs and 1 cat.
Yeah. Yeah.
This one's a dog.
Heather too. Heather usually has dogs too.
I do. It just doesn't feel right unless there's one.
No dogs are harmed.
Yes. No.
Yeah.
Yeah, no cats are harmed. And that's a tricky one. In one of my in Ruby Falls, there is a moment where the heroine loses the cat, and it can be a little nerve-wracking if you don't know that I'm not going to harm the cat.
Right. So good. So let's talk about setting a little bit. You know, we in the book we are in Detroit, which is super cool, and you talk about a museum exhibit, which I want to hear more about. And then we're in Hollywood and Greenwich. Tell us about the settings and how they played into the different layers of the story and what they meant to you.
Well, I tend to write real place. I think you all do too, right? I like reading a book and recognizing a place or imagining it. When I read The Shadow of the Wind, I've never been to Barcelona, but I was completely drawn in to my picturing of what I now think Barcelona looks like. So Detroit, for me, it's where I'm from, and it means so much. It's almost shorthand. It was a great northern industrial city that declined severely in the late 20th century. When we meet Ingrid, it's in the 90s. It's at a moment of severe decline in Detroit. And I think that's kind of emblematic of her life, her home life, her family, and it all dovetails together. And it's a place to get away from. Hollywood, we talked a little bit about that. I think it's a very iconic place for all of us, and it's a place of reinvention. And then when she goes to this 3rd iteration of herself as a wife and mother, she goes to Greenwich, Connecticut. Greenwich is both a suburb and a small town. It's very polished. And what I like about that, I think having been on a soap opera, I've thought a lot about why do people like soap operas? I think because, you know, what's that saying that they said about Somerset Maugham? He wrote about the south of France, a sunny place for shady people. I think
I love that.
people like that. It's often used about Carl Hyacin too, and Florida, but it was originally said about Somerset Maugham. I think we like that juxtaposition. Why do we watch The Crown? Why do we watch anything like that? We want to see people who have seemingly perfect lives beyond what we have, but they have the same fan deck of problems.
Yeah. Yeah, you could say the same about reality TV too. That's what's so interesting about it, right? Their lives look so shiny and bright, but they have the same issues that we do.
Same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like that
perfect veneer, you know, of a family or a mom trying to make everything perfect for her family when things are far from perfect. And I thought it was brilliant bringing in the corn maze.
Yes.
For the kids' party.
Oh, writing the corn maze is so much fun. So, well, that's very Hitchcockian. If you think about North by Northwest and Cary Grant and the cornfield.
Yes.
So when I was conceiving of the corn maze, I was talking to a friend who's very equestrian. She's always off riding in the country. She said, well, you can't have a corn maze at a house. I said, why not? She said, you have to have a corn maze cut in a cornfield. That's where a corn maze is, in the cornfield. So I thought, well, I have to have the corn maze at the house. So I then wrote a scene of my nice Greenwich housewife calling some farmer and asking him in her ever so polite, but I will get this done way, you need to bring the corn maze to me. So I loved writing that scene.
So fun.
Yeah. Okay, you said or read you've been working on a new mother-daughter ghost story?
Yes. So my mother died 2 years ago, and all of my psychological thrillers are very dark and twisty. And after my mom died, I got this download of an idea that's much more comedic. If you think back to the classic ghost story movies like Topper, which is very old, or The Ghost and Mrs. Muir, which is slightly less old, the conceit of those movies is you have one person who can hear and see the ghost and nobody else can. And therein lies much of the comedy, at least. So the gist of it is you have a 55-year-old writer who's had writer's block. She's gone through a divorce. She has these two grown failure to launch. She goes back to the small town to bury her mother. She's had a fraught relationship with her mother. Think Deborah Winger and Shirley MacLaine in terms of endearment. And as she's going through her mother's stuff, discovering bits of her mother's life, the mother comes through to her, I think, through the television, and somebody's about to be murdered next door and says, get up, you have to solve it. And that is the gist of that.
I love it. I'm hooked.
I am too. I love a good ghost story.
But it's lighter. There was something I needed, I think, with the death of my mother, to write something lighter. So it's really more of a cozy, which is to write. I'm having a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Well, we can't wait.
Thank you.
We can't wait. And you guys, it is time for the giveaway. Killer Deborah is giving away 5 copies of Best Boy to lucky US viewers. Doesn't matter where you're watching. We scour the comments everywhere we stream, but please make sure to shout out where you're from when you answer this question: true or false at the Ocean House Author Series. The authors Deborah has interviewed include Katie Couric and Sarah Ferguson, Duchess of York. What could be?
Love it.
Tick, tick, tick.
Yes. And as everyone knows, the Killers, we are huge fans of independent booksellers and want to send them all our support. So Deborah has chosen Martin House Books in Westerly, Rhode Island to highlight tonight. So Deborah, can you tell us why you love Martin House Books so much?
Well, it is the small town local bookstore that we have right here where I am. They're on a beautiful Main Street setting. It's owned by a woman by the name of Gretchen Miller. It's got beautiful paneled walls and 2 floors of books and a cafe. And authors love it because they report to BookScan and New York Times, so you can do your sales there. They work with us at the Ocean House. They're just so wonderful. And it's the kind of bookstore where people just go to sit, to have coffee, to read something. It's a gathering place too.
Sounds lovely. Sounds lovely. So we'll be dropping the link in the comments so you can order Best Boy along with any other books on your wish list from Martin House Books.
Yay. And obviously, the killers love to read, and we love it when you share what you're reading in our Facebook group. Post pictures, write reviews, ask for recommendations, and give yours. Tonight, we would love to know, Deborah, what are you reading?
So I'm reading 2 books back to back, and they could not be more different. It's such an odd spread. I'm reading A Galley of Annabelle Monahan's upcoming book, Dolly All the Time, which is a rom-com, and I'm reading George Saunders' Lincoln and the Bardo, which is a very strange, surreal, kind of Our Town on steroids, post-death look at the death of Abraham Lincoln's son as he's in, the Bardo, which is like a purgatory in the graveyard. It's a strange book, interesting book. So that's what I'm reading right now. That's from one to the next.
2 extremes.
I
Right.
love that, though, bouncing back and forth between 2 very different books.
Yeah.
And like choosing based on your mood. How fun.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think it's good for your brain, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, 'cause it uses different imagination parts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So speaking of fabulous books, we have 2 new releases we want to celebrate tonight. First up, 2 Kinds of Stranger by Steve Kavanaugh. Ellie Parker helped a perfect stranger. She didn't know he was the perfect killer. One small act of kindness sets off a terrifying chain of events in this unputdownable thriller. And we also are celebrating How to Survive in the Woods by Kat Rosenfield. Acclaimed author Kat Rosenfield takes us on a twisty journey deep into Maine's backcountry and into the dark minds of an unforgettable cast of characters. So Steve is giving away 3 copies of 2 Kinds of Stranger, and Kat is giving away 3 copies of How to Survive in the Woods, all to U.S. viewers. If you want in, tell us in the comments and make sure to let us know where you're from. And because we're all about shamelessly plugging our own murdery fun, don't miss the killer's latest reads. Kara's got We Were Never Friends, a sorority reunion that takes a very, very dark turn.
Yes, and speaking of dark turns and deadly parties, Heather's serving up the perfect hosts, an over-the-top gender reveal party that explodes in more ways than one.
And Kimberly's taking you on a deadly European getaway in the expat affair. 2 Americans, the glittering diamond trade, and danger in Amsterdam.
Yes, and we want to say a big killer thanks to Book Reporter for sharing the murdery love. Stay up to date on bookish news and events at bookreporter.com.
Yes, and Deborah, we have very, very good news for you. We are happy to report that you have survived the Author Club. Congratulations.
Thank you. I need like a Girl Scout badge that looks like that.
Yes. We'll send you one, and then you can cut it out, print it out, cut it out, and then slap it right there.
All right.
Yes.
Sounds good. So Deborah, can you tell us where readers can find you?
Yeah, so I'm doing some more events. Next Monday night, I'll be in New York City at a cool downtown club with Lily Donahue. She's young and she has this podcast called Prenup, all about working with young women to get their financial lives in order. And we'll be at Cafe Maison Wells. And then next Wednesday, I'll be at Barrett Books with Teresa Wiegert. And then that's Wednesday the 8th. And then I'll take you through Sunday the 12th. I'll be with Martin House Books at the United Theater in Westerly with Luann Rice.
Ooh.
Fun.
Yeah.
Well, that prenup podcast sounds perfect for Best Boy because we know Vivica has to deal with some prenup issues as well.
She sure does.
Right in.
Yes, she does.
She does. We can't say more. You guys have to read it.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay, you guys, that is a wrap on tonight's episode. Thanks for hanging out with us. Don't forget that Killer Emily Carpenter will be taking over our Facebook group this Thursday. She's got tons of fun and giveaways planned, so set your alarm and tune in for that. We will be back in 2 weeks on April 14th with the most hilarious Sally Hepworth, talking all things Mad Mabel, another fabulous book. Until then, you can catch us wasting way too much time on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube. Make sure to subscribe to our channel there for links, upcoming schedule, past episodes, and merch, and also to sign up for our newsletter, which goes out first thing tomorrow morning. Head to killerauthorclub.com. Thanks for being part of the club.
Bye, everyone.
Good night.
That does it for tonight's show. Thank you for tuning in. If you'd like to catch our next show live, we're every other Tuesday night on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. For times, upcoming schedule, and to catch up on past episodes, visit us at killerauthorclub.com. Happy reading. Now get on out there and kill that TBR.